Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we go once again. It is indeed Jumping In, the best in modern and contemporary jazz on Manx Radio, on any radio, with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's show. And all things being equal, we're not actually at Manx Radio Towers this evening, but at the first fully live Brew Jazz Wee Festival in 3 years, with over 150 concerts spread across pretty much every venue in Brussels. Celebrating this year the 100th anniversary of Belgium's most celebrated jazz figure, Toots Thielman, born Jean-Baptiste Frédéric Isidore Thielman. No wonder Toots was coined for his skillful chromatic harmonic playing. Anyway, we'll bring you up to date with that in future editions of the show. So for tonight, whilst the island readies itself for the first TT in what seems like forever, whose well-honed practices and performances have made their way to the podium for you this week, H?
You might well ask. And whilst I remember, of course, do not forget, in a couple of weeks' time, Jumping In will be moving from Saturday night to Friday night. If you listen to the podcast or elsewhere, makes no odds to you, does it? But if you listen live, it does. So Saturday night to Friday night, certainly through the summer, and beyond then possibly, who knows? But be aware. Who made the podium? Well, I'll tell you, short and sweet. I've got a birthday boy, an old boy, and a new bad.
And from me, well, a rhythmic sequence of events, a beautiful raga. We walk into a dream, and to kick things off, a bit of an early birthday celebration for, well, see if you can guess who. Here's an old traditional favourite given a clever and dynamic reworking, Down by the Riverside. Well, did you guess who it was?
No.
No,
Well, I
didn't.
guessed once I actually saw what the cover of the album.
Yes, yeah, I thought so. Well, I told you as well. Well, a slightly happy early birthday in this case, only by a couple of days, for Christian McBride, bassist extraordinaire, whose recordings are always a treat, especially when they're with a big band. It's the first time that McBride has actually recorded a whole album with stateside Hammond phenomenon Joey DeFrancesco, and the pair, along with the fleet-fingered guitar of Mark Winfield, have decided to harken back to their shared love of landmark 60s recordings of Jimmy Smith and Wes Montgomery. 4 out of the 10 tracks are just the quartet, with the addition of Quincy Phillips on the drums, but the others have a really blowing big band with great charts of the late, great Oliver Nelson. And to mark the fact, the album's called Jimmy, Wes for Jimmy, Wes and Oliver. I love the sheer joy of this recording, and it reminds me that although we have a great recorded legacy of Oliver Nelson, and I've got many, but start with Blues of the Abstract Truth if he's a new name to you, and I hope to keep finding soundtrack recordings of the great music he wrote under Quincy Jones for the 70s detective series Ironside. I particularly loved that when the show started, his scores would regularly progress through 3-time, 4-time, 5-time, 6-time and 7-time. Anyway, Oliver Jones celebrated there by the Christian McBride Big Band.
Cracking sound, a great birthday boy, another birthday boy.
Woo!
2 birthday boys for the price of 1. Coming up in a minute.
Will there be cake?
Too excited yet. A crunchy maybe. Might get a crunchy if you're good.
Other brands are available, by the way.
In the meantime, Trust in Me. Yes, there's a song in there, I think, if you watch Jungle Book. Richie Berak. I've never worked out how to pronounce his name exactly, Berak or Barash, but you know who he is. He's been around for ages, it seems to me, and still playing. And it made me think about him the other day. I found an old cassette of Elm, a lovely album he did on ECM back in 1970s, which I've always really enjoyed. Not that easy to find these days. I dare say it might be digital. I don't have it on vinyl, I don't have it on CD, and it's not widely available. I think it's discontinued as such. Probably a digital download. I haven't looked at that. As it is, my cassette copy, a proper ECM cassette, it has to be said, they probably could be collector's pieces, still works. And as I still have a couple of decent cassette players, I've enjoyed it very muchly, which made me start thinking about some of Richie's music, and then I spotted this one, and I thought, gosh, here's a good one to go back to. Richie Berak Trio with Dave Holland and Jack Jeanette. Couldn't get any better, really, could it? They call this one, What Are the Rules? Great stuff. Enjoy that one. What Are the Rules? That's been called. Richie Barrack piano, Dave Holland bass, Jack DeJohnette drums back in at 1993 from the album Trust under Richie's name. Great sort of line in the liner notes here. Saying much of what this CD about is suggested by this first track, What Are the Rules? His motif, a series of pinpricks jabbed against DeJohnette's free but rhythmic backdrop, acknowledges some rules, tonality, harmony, blues figures, but puts it all into a context and challenges the conventions from which these touchstones are derived. Even when Holland's bass charges into the mix with another reminder of the way things are supposed to be in jazz, namely, it's supposed to swing. Well, could do, couldn't it? Doesn't have to. It's a free breeze that blows around. The result's something like a pack of Indy 500 drivers skillfully interweaving, getting out of each other's way and picking up momentum, but then remembering to ask the flagman each lap, oh, he's supposed to signal while changing lanes or what? I see where he's coming from. Very good. Richie Barrack, still around in his mid-70s now, I think. And like so many before him, went to Berkeley, but left after the first year. Also, in his early years, studied with the great Lenny Tristano. More power to his elbow. I don't think we've ever seen him live, you know. I don't recall ever seeing Richie Barrack live.
I don't think we have, despite having many, many albums with him on. Indeed. Now, next from me, an artist who started occasionally sitting in at his father's gigs from the age of 11. I guess that could roughly equate to our experience, although perhaps it was at the Sunday night cabaret at the Beach Hotel, or maybe a little bit later on at the Villiers with Humph's Band, not sitting in at New York's famous Smalls Jazz Club. Charles Gould may have had a father in the business, Ned Gould, who's perhaps best known for his work with Harry Connick Jr. However, Charles has made his own noise, not only with Wynton, but with a mix of pop and rap stars. Here he is on his debut album, definitely in jazz mode, with Sequence of Events. bad at all. Sequence of events there taken from Rhythm in Contrast. The debut release from New York-based drummer Charles Gould, along with Steve Nelson on vibes, father Ned Gould on sax, Andrew Renfrew on guitar, Tabor Gable, great name, Tabor Gable on piano, and Noah Jackson on bass. And the album takes us on a journey through lots of different rhythmic styles, tight, controlled and swinging unit throughout.
Certainly is swinging, great stuff, and it's amazing, thanks to our friends at Sunnyside. So many good tracks and music and albums coming from them, really good. Check them out if you get a chance. There hardly seems to be a duffer amongst them, as they say. A couple of duffers here, though. Chris and H with you in the studio, jumping in the best in modern and contemporary jazz, even if we're not as modern and contemporary as we might have once been.
Or might not have once been.
Another birthday boy. I told you there were two birthdays. Two birthdays for the price of one. A little bit younger, this chap, Gonzalo Rubalcaba. Haven't had him in on the show for some time. Still going great guns. I think he's stateside these days. Discovered, of course, by Charlie Hayden. Here he is with his album simply entitled Supernova, and the track Supernova 1. Oh, yes. Not too bad. Born May the 27th, so it is indeed this very day back in 1963. So he's a year younger than me, so he's not hitting 60 quite yet, but he's heading that way rapidly, which is terrifying because when I first started playing him, he was the young kid on the block discovered by Charlie Hayden. And now he's heading towards retirement age. Don't know what that says other than the fact that we've been listening to jazz for longer than we like to admit. Lots of albums out under his own name. I could have chosen for any one of, well, Lord knows how many, and a sideman on quite a few. But in this one, as I say, it is a Gonzalo Rubalcaba trio Supernova on Blue Note back in the day, with Gonzalo on piano and keyboards and some percussion, Carlos Enriquez on upright bass, and Ignacio Barroa on drums. And I don't think we heard it on that particular track, but he also is listed as playing Rainmaker. I've got one of those long sticks full of pebbles and lots of primes on the inside. Great sound.
Yeah, the original ones just have seeds in, don't they? They push all the spikes in for a kind of cactus on the outside.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's got a sort of Latin groove to the show tonight. Maybe it's because the sun is shining, still freezing, of course, but it is TT Fortnight after all. Next, classic ECM, although a new release. When Israeli-born, New York-based tenor man released his third album and his first for ECM, Here Be Dragons, back in 2020, the album garnered wide acclaim, with some even proclaiming him to be following in the footsteps of the classic Coltrane Quartet. Well, he has a new release out, a short album running to less than 40 minutes, not necessarily a bad thing. If you've said what needs to be said, why keep talking? Here's Gnome from Oded Zur. Noam, meaning beautiful or good-looking, especially when applied to a boy child. That lets both of us out, I guess. From the Raga form suite that makes up Saxman Oded Suur's new release, Isabella on ECM. One thing's for sure, whoever he takes after, if future albums continue to build on what we've already heard, we've got a lot to look forward to from him.
Yes, thoughtful. It's very ECM-ish, as you say. I enjoyed the first one, Here Be Dragons. They're what I normal class, or we quite often class on this programme, slow burners. You don't whack it on and think, whoa, in your face, great, whack, hit straight, repeat. It's one that you sort of listen to 2 or 3 times and it grows on you over a period of time, but none the worse for that. It usually means there's more hidden depths than superficial value, I always reckon. Jumping in, Chris and myself, H, a new one again from a band who's been around for a long time, but now have reinvented themselves. The Bad Plus, of course, I'm talking about. They are back with their 15th studio recording after somewhat 20-odd years of being together. However, they are not a totally different band, a very different band, in as much as, of course, Ethan Iverson left some time ago, as has the replacement pianist who took over for some time, I think for 1 or 2 albums. He is now left, and so rather than just abandoning it and calling it a day, what have they done? They've turned themselves into a quartet. Have a listen. This is from their new album due out this September. It's called Motivations 2, and this is the eponymous track.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Bertsch, composer, pianist, producer from Zurich, Switzerland. Looking very much forward to be on your radio for Jumping In on Manx Radio. And you might hear some of my music. Thanks a lot, Howard and Chris. This comes directly from the Zen Funk main station.
A turkey is better eaten with one eye to Brew Jazz Week, the Brussels Jazz Marathon, which we are off to this very weekend. We'll be there as you listen to this, I hope. It's the title track, A Turkey's Better Reading, from the wonderful Augusto Parroda Quartet. Augusto on piano, don't know if he's playing this year, but I hope I'd find him in a club somewhere, with Ben Sluis on alto sax, Manolo Cabras bass and Marek Patraman drums. Before that, The Bad Plus, with a single from their new album, Motivations 2, due out this September, if you can hold on that long, or you can get the download on the single now. And it's no longer that trio, since Reeder's still there, but Ethan Iverson long gone, of course. So they now have Ben Monder piano, Ben Monder on guitar, Chris Speed on sax. It's a quartet, but they reckon it's every bit as good. And I have to say, listening to that track, it does sound pretty good. We've pulled off a magic trick, Dave King, says the drummer. Changing the lineup from a trio to a quartet with guitar and sax, it still sounds as coherent as The Bad Plus. Having two main composers was our greatest card to play. Our language remains. That's the magic.
Well, that's about it for this week's show. All being well, we'll be back next week, fully replete with crack, chocolate, waffles, and all the lace you can carry.
That's
from
a beer,
Brew Jazz
crack, by the way.
Crack
Yeah.
is not a duck, yes. And hopefully some new music. But for now, we leave you with a dream band. Their words, not mine. Still, who am I to argue with drum maestro Wolfgang Hafner in the chair and a front line of Randy Brecker on trumpet, Niels Landgren on trombone, and not singing too much, thankfully, Bill Evans on sax, backed up by Christopher Dell on vibes, Simon Uslander on Rhodes, and Thomas Steger on bass. You know things will be high on groove. Here they are with a Nat Adderley tune, Walk Tall. See you next week, hangover permitting.
Amen to that.
Cheers.